Hi, my name is Pat. I'm 20 years old and I'm pretty queer. I am bisexual and I am also gender fluid. And each of these, it was an interesting path for each of these and figuring this out in my youth. I tended to suppress thinking about this sort of stuff based on the upbringing that I had. When I was little, I went to a parochial school, big old Catholic school, ended up going from like kindergarten to 8th grade. So I would not think about some of these things, or if I did, I would try and like push them back. But there are thoughts that I specifically remember growing up, which I look back on now and seem kind of telling for me. When it came to bisexuality, I noticed I had not a very good track record when it came to dealing with other little girls within my class. Like when I was in 1st grade, 2nd grade, I was very mean. I was really like mean and bitter and just not nice to them. And I didn't know why. That was part of that, but I also wonder if maybe that was like me not feeling like I could relate to them at the same time. I remember having thoughts when I was like 5 years old. What if I was a boy? Why don't I feel like one of the girls? Why can't I connect in that way? There's something that's very different about me. And I think it might have also been, you know, the strict, rigid structure of Catholic schooling and all of that. Everything has to be a certain way, and if it's okay with Jesus, then it's okay with the world, that sort of thing. And that was confusing. But I would like put this stuff in the back of my mind. I wouldn't try to think about it too much, because I would just think, oh, you're just being a kid. Like, this is probably how my parents would end up looking at it back then. Oh, you're just being a silly kid. Like, kids think about this sort of stuff that way. It's goofy. I ended up starting to question this sort of stuff a little bit more, actually through seeing what one of my older siblings experienced. They ended up, oddly enough, they came out to me when I was in 7th grade. And I was scared for them because I'd heard what that would mean, being part of that community, part of the queer community. I'd heard what that would mean, and I was scared. But I was not upset with them. I never wanted it to feel like I was upset with them. I wanted to make sure they were safe. Like, that was what came into my mind. So I wanted to be sure. I asked, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Yes, I'm sure." And that was that for them. And I wanted to stand by them as much as I could and research it as much as I could and understand what that was. Because I thought maybe I assumed that I was a young, cis, straight woman. So I ended up trying to view it from that perspective. This started to change a little bit when I got into high school, and I started to notice, you know, I was more than aesthetically attracted to women by that point. And that was odd. But thankfully, like when I ended up going into this high school, it was a very open place, very accepting place. They had a GSA, so I wanted to be a part of that. And I ended up coming out to my friends as bi within that GSA. And basically, like, I would be okay with bringing it up to like anyone who asked, because at that point I ended up thinking, oh, why the hell not? It's not going to impact my future when it comes to these people. So college was a little bit of a different story. College was still a very accepted place. I'm very happy at the school that I'm with. I've been there for about 3 years now, and it's a wonderful place. They didn't have a GSA there. So a couple of us within my freshman class started up a GSA again. And through looking at that, I learned more about I learned more than just like what sexual preference is, because there are many facets within the community. I did not know anyone who was transgender in high school. I did not understand the concept of cisgender. It was new to me. And it's interesting because the more I ended up reading into it, I started to think back to these things I exhibited when I was a kid. Why did I start to wonder frequently what life would be like if I was a little boy? Why did I feel very upset when going through puberty? Why did I start to question this sort of thing? And something was brought to my attention through this research that started to make me think a bit more on this. And the idea was, cisgendered people do not question their gender. And, well, if that's a determinant, then I think I kind of fall into one of those weird places about it. And it has had an impact being within that place, because it's, at least in dealing with my parents who only know part of what I am, one of my parents ended up saying to me when I was younger, there is either gay or straight and there is no in between. You like one or the other. And that was weird, and I made sure at that point, okay, the only way I'm coming out to my folks is if I bring a lady home with me and say that she's gonna be my wife. Which, well, it's I hope that might happen, that'd be nice. But that, oddly enough, was not the case. I ended up coming out to my parents this summer in the wake of the Pulse shooting. I was very upset, and oddly enough, I was not home during that time. I was studying abroad. So I was hearing about it happening from what seemed like a world away. And I got into a fight with one of my parents over the issue because, like, they were upset about it for different reasons than I was. And in the argument, I came out as bisexual. And that is not an easy way to come out. I would say it's like one of the least fun ways to come out. But I realized after that argument, I have to come out to the other parent now. So I ended up calling the other parent, and I tried to break the news gently. And they were okay. They responded in a way that was much more welcoming and loving and inviting than I thought it would be. Because I was also nervous about, like, the different stigmas and stereotypes when it came to being bisexual. I started to think, oh gosh, this parent was also the more religious parent, the parent I ended up coming out to on the phone. So I started to wonder, oh gosh, are they going to think that I'm promiscuous just because I have come out as this? Are they going to think that my mind is tainted with sin? Are they going to continue to love me? Which in all actuality is ridiculous. But, like, it was still there. If one parent can have the stigma, why can't the other? They're still together, they're happy, they have to have, some consensus on some ideas. So I thankfully ended up coming out to that one parent, and they ended up saying, so long as you are not hurting yourself or hurting anyone else, I will love you no matter what. And it's one of the greatest things to experience, is to have that love and acceptance. And I understand in that situation I am very, very lucky, because there are a lot of people who don't get that from their parents. I've created a friend base within, my high school and in my college, and they wanted to make sure I was okay. I would tell them what happened. I told them about the fight, and they were behind me. They wanted to make it clear that they were behind me. And that's one of the most wonderful things I can think of in being within a community like this, because there are so many people who experience so much love in their hearts, and they want to show so much love, that it's an absolutely wonderful place to be. I think there are bits of confusion now and again, and I feel like sometimes that can be like a thing that happens in families too, but it can, the more it's talked about, the better it is. Like, the better off people are, the more they learn. My parents do not know I'm gender fluid. It's still a process. And I mean, coming out is something that you end up doing a lot. It can be hard to do. But the more you do it and the more you talk about it, I think it's beneficial for the community, like for previous generations to have that ability to say it, and also helpful for people just coming into the community, just figuring it out. So I do hope that my story has been helpful in some way if anyone's still figuring it out, because the thing is, if you're questioning it, then it's something to be explored. Don't be afraid to question it. So that is my story to you.